So if I can ask you to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about M-shule and how you came up with the idea, or how your team came up with the idea.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Claire Mongeau. I'm the CEO and co-founder of M-shule, and we are a personalized mobile learning platform that's available to students in sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya for now, but soon to be sub-Saharan Africa, all through SMS. So what we're trying to do is bridge the gap between all of these incredible innovations that have been happening in artificial intelligence and adaptive learning in other parts of the world that are only accessible online or through web or in apps, and make them possible for kids even if they have the most basic feature phone in the middle of rural areas in Africa, to improve both their academic skills and also their 21st century skills.
Okay, so I'm a child in rural Kenya.
Yes.
And I have access to my parents' phone.
Yes.
How is that going to help me learn?
Yeah, so it's a series of text message interactions is the interface for the learning, and we're trying to help support you gain mastery in skills that maybe you've seen in class in maths and in English. So I'm sure you and your readers and listeners probably know very well, learning outcomes in sub-Saharan Africa are very poor, and a lot of that is because teachers just don't have the time to give the individual attention to students in the classroom, and a lot of the learning is very curriculum driven. So teachers are trying to get through as much of the curriculum as possible by the end of the year, where true impactful learning happens when learning is student driven and student led. So as a child is introduced to the concepts in class, we give them that supplementary and personalized digital tutoring at home through their parents' phone. So we help them practice really specific skills in math and in English. So maybe multiplication of fractions or color adjectives. And by sending them series of messages that get harder as they're answering questions right or responding correctly, or easier as they're getting them wrong. And that's how we can tell whether they're actually understanding and getting mastery of the content, or maybe they need to build up foundational skills.
So they also send text messages back?
Yes, yeah. So it's meant to be very interactive, not super fun right now because it's all multiple choice questions, but working on making it even more fun and engaging. So again, maybe you're a kid who's practicing adjectives. So we'll send you a message that says, okay, remember an adjective is a word that describes a noun. And you're like, got it. Then we say, okay, let's practice. Here's a sentence. That's a yellow bird. What's the adjective? And you can choose. And if you correctly say yellow, then we can say, awesome. We're going to move to, a much more complicated adjective, like colorful. If you get it wrong, then we say, okay, let's review what adjectives are again. So it's meant to be an engaging way for the kids to practice and for us to understand where they are.
And does that mean I have to spend my credit on each single text message?
No. So actually in Kenya, our short code or the messaging interaction is set up that you don't have to spend any airtime or any SMS credit on sending us messages. So we have a small subscription fee for parents. So it's less than $1 a month for parents to sign up for their kids for the basic learning package. That'll get them about an hour and a half a week of learning. But that's the only charge that you incur. So it's meant to be very affordable for everyone.
And how many people are signed up at the moment in Kenya?
So we ran a pilot last year where we had about 400 kids who were on the platform from 15 schools. That was our proof of concept to see, is this something that is even going to work? Is kids going to like it? And we found that we increased their exam scores more than non-users, which is great.
Okay, if we take you a little bit of your
course,
space.
no problem.
Sure. And then we also found that kids were saying this is something that's really exciting for us, it's building our confidence. We were like, awesome. So we actually then were like, okay, that's our pilot. And then we spent the last quarter focusing on building relationships with schools. So working with schools takes a bit of time. So we were hoping we'd go into the schools and they were like, great, work with all of our kids immediately. But now we're looking to do that in the next year. So right now we have about 60 schools that have said that they want to be working with us.
And you mentioned AI. What's going on in the background?
Yeah, so we have an AI engine in the back end that uses all of these pieces of information we're getting from the students, if they're answering correctly or incorrectly, what kind of errors that they're making, when they're learning on the platform, and we can use that to understand their learning profile, their personal learning profile. So that can tell us, if you're a class 5 student, middle of the term, you should know these skills, but maybe you don't, maybe you do, and then we can use use that to personalize your learning path moving forward.
I was saying that
So I've got a grasp of how it works.
Yes.
to organize structure.
How do I formulate this question? There's a lot of buzz around education, digitization of education in Africa, and therefore there's a lot of competition. How do you view competition? Because I find in many cases, whilst writing about this, that people are competing against each other for funding, to get students, to get teachers on board with the various different apps, and rather than partnering or complementing each other. So what's your view on that?
Mexico
Well,
is a big region, no?
there are 150 million kids in sub-Saharan Africa, and so the way I see it is, and we get competition questions all the time. There's other SMS learning platforms, there's other adaptive learning platforms. We think we're the only ones to really bring those two together. But my view as somewhat of an educator, not a fully an educator, but working in this business, is that different kids are going to learn in different ways, and better to have more options for them that can better support their specific needs than having very few options that aren't working in collaboration. So other reasons why I really like events like Seed Stars is you come and meet other people doing education, and their approaches are different, or they're plugging into it in a different way, and then you get to have conversations like, okay, well, you know the Nigerian market, I know the Kenyan market, what are the ways that we can work together, and you do what you're good at and I do what I'm good at.
That's really good, actually.
And we're looking for more partners, so so please reach out.
Be sure to tell everybody.
Yeah.
I had one other question and I've forgotten what it was. Oh, that was it. So if you were to give some advice to a young African potential innovator or entrepreneur, what would it be? They maybe have an idea, but what would your advice be to them?
I think one of the best things we ever did was spent a lot of time, and continue to spend a lot of time, sitting in and interacting with our end users. Because I think a lot of times we all have these big grand ideas and we're like, everything's going to be great, we're going to have 1 million users in 3 days, it's going to be perfect. Well, the truth of the African market is that it's very, very fragmented, and it's going to take that much more time to reach people. So what you want to make sure when you do reach people, you've created a solution that works really, really well for them. And what works in other markets isn't going to work in Kenya, say, or in South Africa, and we made some mistakes along those ways too. When we were developing our MVP, we made certain assumptions like, oh yeah, people are going to know how to, this is a silly example, but go from lowercase to uppercase in their basic Nokia phones. And so we don't need to worry about that. Well, it turns out we do, because even when I try to use a Nokia phone, I can't do it. I forgot how to do it. So just really understanding your user's behavior and implementing those design thinking skills in a really cognizant way will help you build something that is really easy for people to use and will help them realize how beneficial it can be to them. My other advice is don't give up. It's definitely challenging to do something new and be working in a market that you also need to build. But I think it's so much more exciting, and it's also gonna reap so many more rewards, I think, in the long run.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Claire.
you too.
And enjoy the rest of the conference.
I will. Thank you so
Don't
much.
get too tired.
Yeah. Thank you.
Early stage